Godspeed, Spider-Man.
Godspeed. I'm something of a scientist myself. I walked into the theater and I saw that in No Way Home.
That's awesome.
I couldn't believe what I was watching. They were all just in like these little cage things.
Yeah.
And then Willem Dafoe's like, I'm something of a scientist myself. And then he pauses for like comedic effect so everyone in the theater can like clap and laugh. And then he's like, Otto knows what I can do. And then Doc Ock is like, you're a monster or some shit.
Yeah, dude, Doc Ock's kind of a bitch in those movies, or in that recent movie, because like he like, I don't know if you saw, but spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home, in case you guys care, but the Tony Stark's like spider suit like goes onto Doc Ock's arms because they're nanotech, and then Tom Holland can just control him.
So
he can control his arms, and then it's just Alfred Molina being like, hey, what are you doing to me? Hey, what's going on here? Huh? Where are we? Hey, you're Norman Osborn. It's so stupid. It's really, I don't know. And then you should have seen, then they go to like Jon Favreau's like little apartment, and then they're all just in there
he's making
hanging
pasta.
out. No, he's not there. He's like away. I wish he was making pasta or like grilled cheese or
He's away
something.
working on his food truck, right?
Yeah. Honestly, it's funny because there's like a 5-year time jump in fucking one of the Marvel movies. I know which one, but I'm just going to act like I don't.
Why?
And Jon Favreau, because I'm not a nerd, okay? I know everything, but I hate that I know everything about the
Why
Marvel
don't you
universe.
just own it, though? Why don't you own the things that you do know?
I did for a while. But
Then
now I don't want to.
What compelled you to change your mind?
Because I just don't like it anymore. I used to like it.
You don't like knowing things?
No, I don't like the Marvel universe anymore. I used to.
I said I used to.
Yeah, so like I think it actually started this year. Because I watched WandaVision and I was really excited for it. And then the ending is so fucking bad. And then I wasn't happy. And then Loki was okay. Loki was solid. I talked about it in the best of. But then I saw like Shang-Chi and like Black Widow and Eternals, and like, yeah, I give them 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd, but like it might be like good big blow up shit, but it's not going to be good in your heart. And that's where I feel like Marvel movies are right now for me, because I really did like the Marvel movies, but I don't think I do anymore.
Well, what's interesting to me is like I never got on board with the Marvel movies. I really liked Iron Man. I like never got on board with Captain America, like just kind of bored me as a character. And then I saw the first Avengers, and at that point I was a little bit cynical towards Marvel, so I didn't love it, even though it's like, it's fun. It's a pretty fun movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same summer we watched The Dark Knight Rises at midnight, so...
Yeah, and there was like kind of a competition too. I remember Matthew Modine was being interviewed, and he plays like a very small part in the Batman movies, but he was like, yeah, we're going to blow Avengers out of the water opening weekend.
Yeah, but he also dies in that movie.
He does. Spoiler alert for a movie that's super old. But since I was never like in on the Marvel movies, like I never had that. I feel the way I've always felt the way about Marvel movies that you now feel about Marvel movies, where like you don't feel like the heart is totally there. Like it just sort of feels kind of factory farmed and kind of boring.
Yeah.
And I was kind of just that's where I've always been. So like for you, where was the heart? Because I never quite found it. Like I think Guardians is like the closest to it.
Yeah. I mean, I love the Guardians movies still, and I like anything James Gunn does because I'm a simp for James Gunn, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I think it was just like, it was like there was a clear like thing they were building to, and it was like Iron Man dying. Like I always thought Iron Man was gonna die like at the end. And yeah, then he did after a decade. And like, I think in a way it's just like, oh yeah, this is like a decade now, and it was a decade of my life. And like, now I can like go and do other stuff and like enjoy other things. And then while I like want to like the characters and like things they're doing, and like the first half of WandaVision is really fucking good. But then like at the end is just like a big schlocky like action thing where like Catherine Hahn, guys. You know Catherine Hahn?
Yeah, I know Catherine Hahn.
Yeah.
Motherfucking Catherine Hahn is like shooting lasers at like one of the Olsen twins' sisters. Like, it's like, what? Like, I liked it when they were just like kind of chatting and like hanging out. I think Thanos is the problem because like they were always building the Thanos, and it's like they beat Thanos, but also Thanos won, and it's like, what else are you gonna do now? You know, what's like next? Like it's kind of over. Big purple guy dies, Iron Man dies. Like, cool. Like just end it, or just make like. And they kind of tried to do this, like make like really intimate like solo movies, but then even with those, like they don't pack a punch because I don't know, like. They just seemed a little manufactured, and like it's just a hard thing because I think we've just kind of seen it all already. Like I'm excited for a few things. Like I think Fantastic Four has the capability of being good, and people have been fan casting William Harper Jackson as like Reed Richards, and I think that's like I think that's a perfect choice. I think he'd be really good, and then I don't know. I think we've seen the best of X-Men too. Like. I don't know. Like, I think First Class is perfect, and I like Days of Future Past a lot. And then the first two X-Men movies, like, I don't know. I guess I just don't care about superhero movies anymore because, like, we've pretty much seen it all. Except I am excited for Batman.
Yeah.
And it is 3 hours long, and I still don't care. So, I don't know. I think, again, I think it's this thing in my life. Sorry, this is, like, long, and, like, this can mostly be cut out. But it's, like... just like internet culture in general just seems so repetitive. Like it's why I'm like mainly off social media now, just because it just got too repetitive. And I think that would have eventually happened to me by like 2025 if like, you know, the pandemic didn't happen, but the pandemic just like accelerated everything, like income inequality and like a bunch of other fucking shit. And like with me, like social media just became like stupid. And same with superhero movies.
No one hates superhero movies more than the fans of superhero movies.
I mean, to be fair, I think superhero movie fans are like... I'd say that about Star Wars fans. Like, superhero fans are like kind of chill nowadays.
What's the difference? What's the difference?
It's all Disney.
I saw Leia fly in Star Wars. She's basically a superhero now.
That was awesome. I love The Last Jedi. Yo, Scream, the new Scream is pro Last Jedi. It's pro Last Jedi. Sorry.
What?
It's awesome.
What does that even mean?
That's all I'm going to say. It's pro Last Jedi.
Okay.
You go watch it and you'll know what I'm talking about.
Tyler, there's a
problem.
problem.
Do you want me to tell you, Dan?
There's a problem, though. I haven't seen Scream 2, 3, or 4.
What?
I've only seen Scream 1.
They only talk about the first one.
Okay.
They only talk about the first one in it. I think overall it's a pretty fun movie, but I also think it was made for me because it's like...
Specifically.
Yeah, it's like a love letter to the first Scream and the whole franchise. But then also it talks about like fandom too in an interesting way. And that's why I think it's pro Last Jedi.
Wes Craven did 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? Or did he only do the first 3?
He did all 4.
Okay, so does it feel significantly different without him behind the camera?
Oh, totally. But like, I don't think it's like a bad way. It feels kind of fresh, which is I think was needed. And then I don't know. I think Scream 4 is a little too meta. But this fifth one was really good, actually. It was like fresh and new. And I think the best part about it was that they had like Vanessa from In the Heights was the main character.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they had like they didn't. I don't know. It's just like weird to have like Jamie Lee Curtis like as the lead when she's like 78 or some shit. And I'm not saying like that's wrong, but like for a slasher movie, I think that's wrong.
So what you're saying is you don't think that older women should have roles in Hollywood?
No.
Got 'em.
You're misquoting me.
No.
You're misquoting me there.
Full quote. Accurate quote.
No.
Canceled.
I'm saying because Jamie Lee Curtis was a lead in Knives Out, and I think it worked. It was fantastic. But like, you have to put people in the proper movie. Like, I don't think Sylvester Stallone should be an action hero anymore because he's like 78 or whatever.
Because he's Italian, really?
Oh, you're going down today, God. Tyler. Did you see Halloween Kills?
No.
So
I saw I saw 2018 Halloween.
I kind of like 2018 Halloween. I don't think it's like great, but like I think it's like pretty serviceable within the context of the franchise, but also just like on its own, like as a Halloween slasher movie, it's pretty fun. Halloween Kills was really bad, and I don't think this is really a spoiler because you can't really spoil something that doesn't happen in the movie. But like Jamie Lee Curtis basically isn't involved in the main plot of the movie because at the end of the 2018 Halloween, she gets wounded. So for the entirety of this movie, she's in the hospital.
Right, because it takes place directly after.
Yeah, and so she can't do anything. So it's a very weird movie, and Jamie Lee Curtis like doesn't have anything to do in it. But then the way that movie ends is like they're setting up for this big final showdown between the two of them.
Why waste a movie? Well, you know, like
it's the same thing with the Jurassic World movies. Like, you know how like they talked about how like they wanted to do this third one. That's the movie they wanted to make, but they had to make two before it in order to get there. Like, that's crazy.
No. It's like, no, you didn't. You could have just made the movie.
Tell the story you want to tell. Yeah.
Again, it's like Spider-Verse. It's like they introduced 5 new Spider-Man in that movie. They didn't need to have 5 different movies to build to it. They didn't have to have like another Andrew Garfield movie to remind people like, this guy's Spider-Man.
You texted the group chat. You kind of wanted to talk about like the state of blockbusters and stuff. And like, inevitably, whenever we have a conversation, I was saying this to Jack the other day too. Whenever like we're talking with Ian, it always comes back to the Last Jedi and the Rise of Skywalker, and how much we dislike the Rise of Skywalker, and then it comes back to Marvel movies. And even though I don't like Marvel movies, one of my favorite pastimes is fan casting for future Marvel movies, which is insane and stupid. And it's crazy to say like, how do you fix something that isn't broken? But what is the solve for these blockbuster movies? Because we watched Dune, which although it's based on IP, it's more of an original story than it is, you know, something like in the Marvel universe. And we felt cold about that too. So like I didn't like Halloween Kills. We don't like the Jurassic World movies. Like there's no blockbusters that I'm enjoying right now. So what is the solve?
Yeah. I mean, would you argue, let's see. The French Dispatch budget.
Are you calling this a blockbuster?
Okay, a blockbuster is over 100 million, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, French Dispatch was 25 million.
Okay, I thought it was going to be way.
I thought it was going to be like 40 or something, honestly. Benicio del Toro, okay, let's see. These are my like top 5 movies of the year. It's like The Green Knight, Titane, Red Rocket, Licorice Pizza, and The French Dispatch. Like, none of those are over 40 million. And I'm trying to think of like literally I think the closest thing to a blockbuster that I liked this year was I guess this is a blockbuster, was the Suicide Squad. But like that's like Guardians of the Galaxy, because so like any blockbuster James Gunn makes, I think I'm down for. I think that's a solve. I think he needs to make every blockbuster. But I don't know if you can make an original blockbuster anymore, right? Like, it's all IP. Like, they're not going to give you $100 million to make your fucking screenplay that you wrote when you were 19.
And, you know, I just watched Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid for the first time 2 nights ago. Have you guys seen that movie?
No, I haven't, but it's been on my list forever. Yeah,
same here. It's one of those movies that like you're supposed to watch if you love movies, and like I just never have, because the reputation is so insane that it's kind of a daunting task to begin. But like that movie is so much fun. And I was watching it and I was like, I haven't seen this movie in years. Like they literally don't make this movie. And I kind of hate when like filmmakers say like, oh, they don't make movies like they used to because it's super MAGA. But like, this is the one area where I will accept that sort of MAGA mentality when they say like they don't make movies like they used to, because they genuinely don't. And like it's easy to say with these blockbusters, like, oh, just make it like more about the characters, make the stories a little bit smaller. But like even that, like that's too simple.
Can I argue something?
Absolutely.
If you make the story smaller and if you make the more focused on the characters, today you don't need a budget.
Yes, that's right. That's a good point.
And I don't know. I think that's like the big, not necessarily problem, but that's the big thing that's keeping blockbusters now, because like, again, you can, we can make a pretty good looking movie for like probably $10,000. Like that's like a fuck ton of money in my mind to make a movie. And like, you know, that's why, the French Dispatch I just thought was more expensive just because it looked incredible. But it's only $25 million, which is like a lot of money. Like I can't fathom that much money.
Jack has that much money.
You have $25 million?
Allegedly. I'm not allowed to talk about
It's
that.
in a Swiss,
for the
it's a
NDAs.
Swiss bank account.
I'm not going to talk about that because of the NDA.
No, but Tyler, I think that point is actually really interesting because like the solution that everyone comes up with these blockbusters, especially with these Marvel movies, because like the TV shows were supposed to be that sort of solution that we're talking about, like make the story smaller, ground it with some characters, allow some of these, you know, tertiary characters to grow a little bit over the course of like 6 to 10 episodes. And that was supposed to be the solution. But those, you know, a lot of them still aren't working for you. I haven't watched them, so I can't really say. But just from what I've heard, it doesn't appeal to me. And like, I think that this idea that like you do that, you make the story smaller and the character more character focused, it does completely change the whole thing. It's no longer a blockbuster. So that's not the solution. I mean, that's just a different thing. So the solution to making better blockbusters can't be making a different type of movie, because blockbusters still have to be blockbusters. And like, I want to go see blockbusters. Like I want to go to the movie or I want to go to the theater and see like a big popcorn movie. Like I want to have a fun thrill ride. I don't know. I think that the core thing that you also hit on just a moment ago was like, maybe you just can't do original blockbusters anymore. I think Dune just like really sunk the ship for me. And also Tenet too. You know,
I mean, okay. So let's stop like talking about like, you know, those ones that disappointed us, like Tenet and also Dune. I think they're both serviceable, but like I think I gave them both like 5 out of 10, whatever. But the thing is, like, there's a lot of love put into it, and like I think in general, like it's always important when we talk about like criticizing films and stuff. It's not necessarily like anything to do with like the love that was put into it. It's just like for us, it just didn't work in that same way as like the director envisioned. But something I really liked that was a blockbuster directed by Denis Villeneuve. Like I love Blade Runner 2049. I think that is like the perfect blockbuster, modern blockbuster at least.
So let's look at the formula for that. Though, because I don't think it's like, I think if Blade Runner 2049 becomes the rule as opposed to the exception, then I would also get bored of that rule. Because like the formula is take this old sci-fi movie and then do a sequel to it that like really expands on the themes of the first one, and it's like a thinking man's blockbuster. And like so the formula for that would basically be, okay, let's take Westworld for example and let's expand it. They did that in television, but like they could have done the same thing for film. You know, Jonathan Nolan could have made a film sequel to Westworld and blown it out and done the same sort of thing that they did for Blade Runner 2049. And they could do this for a million sci-fi movies from the 70s and 80s. And eventually I think I'd get bored of that too.
Have you guys ever considered that maybe you are just too smart for blockbusters and the intended audience for them are people who are stupid and want to turn their brain off and don't want to or know how to analyze film? Discuss.
I mean, that could be true too. That's a good point. But Dan, I would say, name a blockbuster from the past that worked for you, that like you want to see more of. Because like for me personally, I love Back to the Future.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say as well.
Yeah, something like that. But the thing is, like, maybe that's just like a TV show today, you know? Maybe, you know, that's just like Squid Game or like whatever else we watched this year, Succession, you know? Like, I guess Succession's not a blockbuster, but like, you know, something with like big stakes. Like Game of Thrones was a blockbuster too.
Back to the Future is a perfect example because like, I think that this also falls in line with like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, like I was talking about earlier. Maybe it has nothing to do with the movies and has everything to do with the audience, because those movies on the surface are just like really fun adventure movies, and then they blow up. So maybe it's the expectation, because we go into a Marvel movie knowing it's a blockbuster and knowing the stakes are going to be so big. But like you watch, like I went into Butch Cassidy and I was like, I have no idea what this movie is. I just know its reputation is so incredible. And then I watched it and it was so much fun and it evolved into a blockbuster, if that makes sense. Same with like Back to the Future. It starts off as just like this sort of small movie, and then the concept broadens and gets bigger and bigger and the stakes get bigger and bigger. And then by the end of the movie, you're like, that was sick. That was an awesome blockbuster. So maybe it's just the expectation that I go in with, because the blockbusters are marketed as blockbusters, but when they're not marketed as blockbusters, maybe that has something to do with it, because yeah, those are blockbusters, but they don't resemble Dune or The Suicide Squad or anything that came out in the last 10 years. So maybe it's just expectation.
Yeah. And you know, as we get older too, it's expectations, you know, change a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, also, like, I guess it was a blockbuster for back then, but Back to the Future was only 19 million, but it's in 1985, so adjusted for inflation, I'm sure it's a lot more.
But I think that also speaks to the question, because, like, is a blockbuster a high budgeted film, or is it a movie that makes a shit ton of money? Because
right.
I think that's also maybe where I'm sort of talking about, like, expectation, where, like, blockbusters are made with blockbuster budgets now. You know, That's why we love Get Out, is because it was made for so little and then it blew up. It wasn't expected to do as well as it did. And then it becomes a blockbuster, even though, like, the content of the movie it's not blockbuster material at all. It's just people in a house, you know? So maybe that's the thing, is that we're kind of throwing all of this money at something, and then it creates this expectation that it's supposed to be this huge thing. And then we go into it with that expectation, and we get exactly what we were promised, and there's nothing satisfying about that. I think the surprise of, like, discovering something is more exciting.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with that. And yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. They talk about elevated horror in Scream 5 too, and that's just interesting in general, because, like, I don't know. Sometimes, like, you want to be smart and like things like that, but then other times it's like, I just want to watch a fucking stupid ass movie and just, like, have a good time. I mean, interestingly enough, I feel like comedies aren't made at all anymore. Like, there's, like, SNL and there's sitcoms, but, like, there's, like, no movie that's just, like, a straight up comedy anymore. There's, like, which is weird, because, like, I feel like there should be a market for it, but I guess, like, in all the Marvel movies, they just make jokes all the time and shit.
There must have been, I think that the 2000s were just a really bad time for movies for the most part. We're coming out of the 90s and we stop using film and we start going to digital, and the quality of the digital isn't that great yet. So, like, the movies don't look that wonderful, but we're still doing some of the formulas of, like, 90s comedies. And I think people got a little tired of some of the stuff we were seeing. And I think the 2000s sort of just feels like a copy of the 90s. Like, we were just trying to keep the ship going, because for the most part, the 90s, like, the idea of the 90s was that we were in a very stable place as a country. And so we just kind of tried to continue that, but then we realized that maybe that was not always the case, but maybe we were lying to ourselves.
9/11 happened.
Yeah, honestly. And the whole idea, the whole mentality of, like, when Bush was saying, like, just go back to shopping, basically, like, try to keep the American economy going. I think that all of that political sentiment carries over into movies, you know, whether it's conscious or not. But I think the movies that were being made, I mean, specifically comedies, just felt very uninspired until we get, like, The Hangover at the 2009 or something like that. And, you know, a couple of other movies. There's the Adam McKay movies, obviously. There's exceptions. But
and Adam McKay's serious now, so sorry, no more serious. Adam McKay comedies.
Very serious. But the point of all of that is just to say that, like, I think that's why we don't have comedies. I don't think it's, like, Marvel's fault. I don't think it's the audience's fault. I think that we just made really bad movies for a decade, and then everyone was like, I don't want to go see that. If I want to laugh, I'll watch a TV show. Or if I want to laugh, I'll go do stand-up comedy or something like that.
Yeah, and stand-up comedy is, like, way more accessible now.
I don't think we're ever getting comedies back in movies. I think it
what?
Exclusively lives.
Really?
Yeah, I really don't think it ever comes back. Because I don't know, like, why would you go to a movie theater for that? Because you can have a weekly relationship with characters, and then that makes it funnier. So you could just do that on television, or you could watch stand-up. I don't know if comedy movies, like, even like The King of Staten Island, Jack's beloved King of Staten Island, which is a funny movie,
incredible,
is
incredible.
honestly more of a drama than it is a comedy. Like I
was about to say more coming of age movies like that too.
Yeah, those movies still exist, and like
yeah, I guess the Jump Street movies were comedies, but they were also action movies though. So
and they were also commenting on the thing, you know, they were also based off of a beloved TV series, superstar actors in the roles. So like everything went according to plan with those movies.
I think just like streaming changed everything too. Because now like half the movies just go like to Netflix or Amazon Prime. You know, thinking of like Hotel Transylvania to Transformania.
3. I think that's the third.
Yeah.
It's the fourth
one or something.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. I feel like no one does that. I feel like no one does that anymore. Yeah, you know, like there's no like comedy person that's like yeah anymore. You know what I mean? Like no one's like up there screaming yeah like they used to. That's like a very early 2000s. Yeah, I was about to say that's a very early 2000s thing. So I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah,
there's
no Jim Carrey. You know? There's no Jim Carrey, Robin Williams. You know, none of those comedy personas anymore. Jack Black.
Look, I will say maybe one of the problems with why there's no pure comedies anymore, and then this is just from my experience as a learned student who has a degree in comedy writing and performance.
Teach us, Dad.
All my teachers told us we had to have some sort of social political commentary in it too, and everything had to have like a deeper meaning and message. So like we have no movies anymore like that are just like, oh, funny time. Yeah. So I think that's part of it too, is everyone wants to have some deeper thing going on in their movie.
But you know what? That's why I think we love I Think You Should Leave.
Right.
Because most of the sketches, I mean, yeah, no, all of the sketches don't have some greater meaning. It's just funny.
And that's probably why my teacher said that when Tim Robinson was her student, he was weird.
Yeah, because he would probably just go like, shit like that. And that's just funny.
Well, yeah, I think that's really a key point, because also like for me, and this is gonna tie into where we'll end this as well, because I wanted to talk about the pod going forward and like some small shifts I want to make to like my own personal performance on the pod and stuff.
Here we go. He's gonna get meta with it again.
I'm gonna get big brain.
Dan's always getting meta.
Always going galaxy brain. But before I get there, because like for me personally, I would never write a film that didn't have a very deep political or social message. Because for me, what I want to do is to, in small ways, change the world. You know, that's sort of savior complex. But like, I think that a lot of writers have that same sort of thing. Like they want to make a significant impact on the world before they die. And so like, I want to write movies that are important. I would never like sacrifice the entertainment of a movie in order to like shove stuff down people's throat, a la Don't Look Up, Adam McKay. But of course that's for drama, not comedy, so it's a very different thing. But that's what I want to make. However, I don't want everything to be that. You know, that's why I love Tim Robinson, because I want both of these things to exist. And I think that that's where, like at your school, Jack, I like that is what is being taught, because I think that if you have a deep political message and you are funny, it is better than just funny. I think that if you can marry those two things perfectly, the peak of that is like the top of the mountain. But if it doesn't marry well together, then you end up with something that's just like makes you feel kind of gross.
Right, and not everyone can do that, and that's why I also think we need to allow space for the people like the Tim Robinsons of the world who are just extremely stupid. Like, I don't think we should force people into making things that are political commentaries when, like, quite frankly, if you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, don't talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, if you don't know about voting rights, don't write a sketch about voting rights, because it's just going to be weird. Like, don't do that.
It's just, everything's sad. Everything's terrible.
What did you want to say about the podcast?
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that something I do especially that I think maybe we should consider changing in the future for this year is on our movie review pods. instead of doing them as presentational as they are, you know, like sort of book reportish, instead shifting the focus to be a little bit more like, we are filmmakers and this is what we are learning by watching this movie, as opposed to here's why you should watch this movie.
Like more dissection.
Not necessarily, I mean, because we dissect the movies, but what I mean is like this is like when we watched The Squid and the Whale, I think we started to do it a little bit better than we had in the past. But like, I, Daniel, am a writer. So how am I a better writer after watching this movie? And I think we started to do that a little bit, because I think that the more like presentational, the more it seems like we are professionals talking about this movie and here is what you should learn about it, as opposed to we're all learning together.
This is what I learned. Yeah, this is what I learned. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think
this is what I learned today at school.
It's a subtle focus shift, but I think one that I'm going to try to make going forward on the pods.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm perfect, so I'm not going to change anything that I've been doing.
Interesting.
But I'll keep that point in mind. I just don't think I have a single flaw.
I mean, all right, this is what I'm bringing into 2022. I think we just got to bring like our best, you know, and just move forward.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, because I think we're doing a really good job, boys. I think we just hit a milestone, and like it's not that many, but like, hey, it is that many too at the same time.
It's the 5-year anniversary. We've been doing nothing notable just in general for 5 years. Anyone got any thoughts on that before we wrap it up?
I just think, like, you know, maybe it's only been 2 years, really. Because, like, can we really count the last 2.5 years? Or however the fuck long it's been? I think we can. But also, maybe we shouldn't.
What did you just say?
I'm just excited to start filming shit again. Now that we're all down here.
Oh, yeah.
You know that guy who comments on the Fargo videos and is like, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope he sees it and he goes, gentlemen, this was really good, guys. Like, good job. That's my goal for 2022.
And I hope that lady that commented about how she too admires Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah.
I hope that
she too is an admirer of director Bong.
Yeah, I hope she too is an admirer of our future filmmaking endeavors.
Also, by the way.
Yeah.
While we've been talking, we got another subscriber.
That's incredible, truly.
Whenever we do these like random pods, we end up like pumping ourselves up and being like, hey, the future is really bright for us. But I do feel like the future is bright.
Why wouldn't I pump myself up?
Yeah, when everything's so sad.
Right.
I'm shaving my beard after this, I think. Sorry, I was supposed to grow out my beard all of 2022, but 21 days in, I'm done.
Don't do that. Don't grow that out all of 22. That would look gross.
It would look pretty fucking disgusting, huh?
Yeah, don't do that.
No, I don't know. I think, you know, it's going to be a fun year, and I'm happy that you guys are here. Even though we're still doing the same shit that we did when you guys weren't down here.
Dan and I are in the same apartment, and we're still over Zoom right now.
Sometimes that's how it do be.
Godspeed, Spiderman.
I'm something of a scientist myself. You know, I walked into No Way Home.
It starts from the beginning, yeah. It would be funny to loop it, actually, and then slowly. You should do that. Loop it and then slowly, yeah.